Why can't the US just drop a nuke on Iran? I guarantee this question has crossed your mind. Look, just a few days ago, the whole world was holding its breath, thinking World War III was about to kick off. Israel and the US teamed up for a massive strike on Iran. But Iran didn't even blink. They weren't backing down. Now, think about it for a second. The US has the most high-tech, lethal military on the planet, plus around 5,000 nuclear warheads just sitting in their arsenal. But despite all that firepower, they still couldn't just wipe Iran off the map. So if things got that bad, why didn't the US just drop a nuke and end the game right there? What's the massive roadblock stopping a global superpower? Is America actually scared of Iran? Or is there a dark reality here that mainstream media totally ignores? Let's break it down from the top. First off, you gotta understand that Iran is not flying solo today. According to reports, Iran is part of a heavyweight geopolitical squad that experts are calling CRINK. And this isn't just some alliance on paper. These countries are actually backing each other up in the real world. CRINK stands for China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. Let's look at Russia. In January 2025, Russia and Iran signed a massive 20-year strategic partnership. We're talking deep cooperation in trade, military tech, science, and education. Sure, it doesn't have a direct, if you get attacked, we fight, mutual defense clause, but Russia is a massive ally in Iran's corner. During the Ukraine war, Iran hooked Russia up with thousands of Shahed drones. In return, Russia handed over training jets, attack helicopters, and top-tier military gear. It's a strategic trade-off, and they're both cashing in. Then there's China. China and Iran locked in a 25-year cooperation deal back in 2021, teaming up heavily on energy, infrastructure, and trade. China buys Iranian oil dirt cheap, often way below market value. So to China, Iran isn't just a buddy, they're a crucial energy partner. During the clash in February 2026, China didn't send troops, but they openly trashed the US-Israel strike. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi straight up said, "Force can't solve problems," and told everyone to de-escalate. And don't sleep on North Korea. Even if they aren't directly involved in this specific conflict, they roll with Russia and China. They're arguably the most unpredictable wild card out there, and they're sitting on nuclear weapons. If the US nukes Iran, it sends a global message. Hey, using nukes is acceptable again. That gives countries like North Korea the green light to get even more reckless. If the US pushes the button on Iran, Russia and China won't just see it as an attack on Iran. They'll see it as a direct threat to their own survival. They'll think, if America can nuke Iran today, they could do it to us tomorrow. And that's where the biggest rule of all gets broken. We'd be looking at a situation where nuclear superpowers are going head-to-head. The threat of World War III becomes 100% real. This brings us to a super important concept, the nuclear taboo. Ever since Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, the world has had this unwritten rule. No matter what happens, no matter how brutal the war gets, nobody uses the bomb. If the US drops a nuke on Iran first, without Iran ever firing one at them, America loses its moral high ground forever. They wouldn't be able to lecture the world about international law, human rights, or global order ever again. Nobody would take them seriously. The UN would completely turn on them. Even their closest allies, the UK, France, Germany, would probably be forced to step back. Countries like India, Brazil, and South Africa would openly stand against the US. Think of it like this. Imagine the whole world is a small town, and every country is a person living there. If the strongest guy in town, let's call him USA, pulls out a gun and shoots someone else, Iran, without it being an absolute, last resort, life-or-death situation, the whole town is going to turn on him. Nobody will want to stand by him. And America never wants to be in that position. Plus, there's a terrifying ripple effect. If the US nukes Iran, every small and medium-sized country gets a loud and clear message. If you don't have a nuke, a superpower can wipe you out whenever they feel like it. Boom. That kicks off a massive global nuclear arms race. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, South Korea, and Japan would hit the gas on their own nuclear programs. The entire global security system that took decades to build would collapse in a few years. Here's something people always forget. Modern wars aren't just fought with missiles and bombs. They're fought online. And Iran is not a rookie in this space. They are actually ranked among the top cyber powers in the world. If a full-scale war breaks out, Iran will let its hackers off the leash. And they won't just be going after military bases. They're going straight for America's civilian infrastructure. Imagine the targets: banks and financial institutions, power grids, dams and water filtration systems. It's an invisible war where the enemy can completely freeze the day-to-day lives of regular citizens right inside America. It would be a nightmare for the US government to keep its own people safe at home. The next reason is straight up crazy. But before we dive in, real quick, if you're getting value out of this video so far, do me a huge favor and smash that like button. If you're on YouTube, hit subscribe. And if you're watching on Facebook, make sure to follow the page. So, the US basically wants to wreck Iran's nuclear program so they can't ever get a nuke. But that's a huge headache for us. Why? Because Iran buried their whole system hundreds of meters deep in the mountains. And to make things worse, no one actually knows where to find them. To permanently end Iran's nuclear program, the US would have to drop multiple high-yield bunker-buster nukes back to back. Doing that would release a horrifying amount of radiation, and that radiation wouldn't respect borders. It would blow straight into neighboring countries. And who lives next door? America's own allies: Israel, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Iraq, and tens of thousands of US troops stationed at bases all over the region. The US would literally be poisoning its own soldiers and allies. Let's say the US ignores the radiation and attacks anyway. What happens next could literally freeze the entire global economy overnight. Enter the Strait of Hormuz. This is the most critical oil choke point on the planet. Roughly 20% to 30% of the world's crude oil and liquefied natural gas flows through this tiny stretch of water. It is so essential that if it gets blocked for even a few days, the global energy market goes into total meltdown. Once that happens, the global oil supply chain snaps. Oil prices would rocket to the moon. Within weeks, we could be looking at $100 to $200 per barrel. Transporting anything becomes insanely expensive, and the US stock market would likely crash hard. America is already dealing with inflation and economic stress. They simply cannot afford that kind of financial hit. A military victory could easily set the US economy back by decades. Finally, we have to talk about Iran's biggest flex: asymmetric warfare. Over the last 40 years, Iran have built a massive proxy network across the Middle East known as the Axis of Resistance. If the US nukes Iran, all of these proxy groups will go completely off the leash, because at that point, they have absolutely nothing to lose. In Lebanon, Hezbollah is sitting on an estimated 100,000 plus missiles. Their first target? Israel. Even the Iron Dome would be completely overwhelmed by a swarm that massive. In Yemen, the Houthis would rain drones and missiles on whatever is left of global shipping in the Red Sea. So, even if a nuclear bomb doesn't hit US soil, Iran's strategy ensures that every single American ally, base, and interest in the region gets lit up. Let's be real. The American public is sick and tired of endless wars. Nobody wants to fund another trillion-dollar bloodbath. We just saw this a few days ago with some of the biggest protests in US history, where the public heavily turned against their own president. American politicians care about public opinion because they need votes. No leader wants to commit political suicide by starting a massive, unpopular war when the economy is already stressed and the public is exhausted. So, smart strategists know the truth. Nuclear weapons aren't actually meant to be used. They are a tool for fear. Their only real job is to scare the enemy so much that you never actually have to use them. So, what do you guys think? Do you think Trump is going to play it smart and keep this ceasefire intact? Or is the world about to get hit with another massive shockwave? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and make sure to like the video, follow Ruby3D, and I'll catch you in the next one.